それではただいまから、7月21日海の日を記念いたします特別セミナーを開始いたしたいと思います。一部英語でやりますので、英語の方、日本語についてお聞きになりたい方はアプリの方をご利用いただいて、翻訳機能で、ご視聴いただければと思います。So now I'd like to start our special seminar to commemorate Japan's Ocean Day. We are very pleased to welcome you to the seminars called Viewpoint from Nice about International Partnership for Sustainable Ocean Outcome of the Third UN Ocean Conference and Future Perspectives. We are expecting our foundation president, Dr. Atsushi Tsunami, to welcome and open this seminar. He's on the way, and we'd like to ask him to deliver the remarks as soon as he gets here. As you have already learned that today, 21st July, is a national holiday. So all schools, public offices are all closed for the holidays to commemorate Japan's Ocean Day or Sea Day. And this originates in the Meiji Emperor trip. He made over 150 years ago that the Meiji Emperor had a voyage with his ship and came back on 20th July in 1876. And this is the origin that the Japanese started celebrating Japan's Ocean Day. Japan is sixth largest coastal line holders and also sixth largest EZ territorial waters among the world. Not at the same time, ocean is threatened by multiple factors, including marine pollutions, seawater warming, plastic pollutions, overfishing, and these are some of the challenges that the international community has to tackle. And in that respect, we are holding the once every 3 years United Nations Ocean Conference. And for this, we had just in Nice, France, the third United Nations Ocean Conference, where actually today's special keynote speaker, Ambassador Peter Thompson, UN Secretary's Special Envoy for Ocean, has played a very important role in designing and supporting the deliberation at this third UN Ocean Conference. We call it UNOX 3. So we are very privileged and we are very honored to have Ambassador Peter Thompson, United Nations Secretary General's Special Envoy. And for this seminar, we really thank President Yusuke Saraya, the President of the Saraya and Zeri Japan, for providing us this very important platform for us to exchange a viewpoint on the outcome of UNOX 3 and future actions. So please join me in giving a warm welcome to Ambassador Peter Thompson.
Thank you very much, Kobayashi-san. Who's the timekeeper here? Okay, so 10 minutes I've been asked to speak for. So when I get to 9 minutes, just go like this, because when you turn an ambassador on, it's difficult to turn him off. He can go for hours. So I'll be looking to you around about 9 minutes. So UN Ocean Conference, what was it? You know, it was the third in this series of conferences which bring together the world. It's not an everyday conference. It has to be mandated by the UN General Assembly. That means 193 countries have to say, yes, we want to have this conference. And it was the third one. And not as a spoiler alert, but we need to get a new mandating resolution for UNOC 4, which will be held in June 2028. Very important conference. I'll tell you a little bit about that later. So it was mandated to meet in Nice. The co-hosts were France and Costa Rica. There's always one developed country, one developing country that co-hosts these conferences. And this, in fact, turned out to be the biggest ocean conference ever held on this planet. There were 12,000 people came into the conference itself, but there's an adjoining thing called the Green Zone, where there were 130,000 people came in to see all the exhibits there. So this was a massive conference. I think there was something like 64 heads of state turned up in Nice, and over 115 ministers, I think it was. So it was a massive gathering of leaders from around the world to talk about the ocean's problems. And what are the ocean's problems? You know, why did we burn all that carbon to get together in Nice? Is because we cannot live as human beings. We cannot live on a healthy planet if we don't have a healthy ocean. And the ocean's health is currently measurably, every indice, measurably in decline. And that decline is accelerating. Okay? So that's why all those leaders needed to get together to decide what we're going to do about this situation, because it's not one which is high on the global media's attention. It's not one which is high on the global political attention. So we have to stimulate that awareness, because without a healthy ocean, we don't exist. It's as simple as that. So that's why the conference was so important. There was an innovation which was actually done in Lisbon at the second UN Ocean Conference, which was organized by, co-hosted by Portugal and Kenya, where the co-hosts said, we want to put on some special events. Okay, the UN General Assembly has mandated the conference. Within the conference, there will be, plenary where all 194 countries, 93 countries will speak. There will be special panels, the scientific panel, the legal panel, and all the rest. But the co-host said, we want some special events, and they put them on. One was a youth event, for example. So when we went to Nice, the co-hosts, which were France and Costa Rica, said, we want 3 special events in Nice. One on finance, because SDG 14, the ocean SDG, is the most underfunded. And if we're going to fix the healthy ocean, obviously we need to put a lot more financial resources towards that. So the first special event they had was the Blue Economy and Finance Forum. It was held in Monaco the week before the conference. And this looked at new forms of financing, and there were all sorts of good outcomes from that, one of which was $8.7 billion worth of commitments made by philanthropists and private investors and public banks towards the ocean, and also the forming of a philanthropists and investors initiative, which is just going to focus private sector getting into ocean action. So that's underway. The second special event was the One Ocean Science Congress, which was held also in the week before the conference. And I learned a very important lesson from that, which is that before you have a policy meeting, like at a UN Ocean Conference, have a science meeting before it, so that the policymakers can be informed by the scientists. And we had 2,000 of the world's best ocean scientists gathered together in Nice at that Congress, and their recommendations went straight to the conference so that we could decide at the conference on the basis of solid science. And the third one, which probably not a lot of you have heard about, but I think it's a really important thing for humanity going forward, and it affects any coastal country. And this is that the mayor of Nice and the mayor of New Orleans and hundreds of mayors and coastal governors of coastal communities gathered together in Nice for a one-day summit on ocean rise. Now, I don't think the world is aware enough about how fast oceans are rising. Since satellite measurement of ocean rise began in 1994, so not that long ago, since 1994 until 2020, it rose by 4 inches. 4 inches that was the global rise for sea levels. And again, this is another one which is accelerating. Why is it accelerating? Because global warming is accelerating and glaciers are melting. So sea level rise comes from the melting of ice on land, Greenland ice sheet, Antarctica, etc. But it also comes from the expansion of H2O. As the water gets warmer, it expands. So the water has nowhere to go. It's one big bathtub, only one ocean. Bathtub has to go up. So this coalition that was formed at that special event is a very important one. And I think cities like Osaka really need to be part of that coalition, because that's going to be all about sharing the adaptation and advocating for better finance for doing that adaptation. That affects countries like mine in the Pacific Islands, but it also affects the big cities like Osaka and Shanghai and so on. And not forgetting the food deltas, you know, of the world, which are also going to go on underwater. So, all in all, it was a very important meeting, but you know, it's not so much what happens at a conference, it's what happens after a conference. Kobayashi-san and I have just come from Cameroon in Africa, where there was a follow-up conference, and there was 15 countries there. 8 of them, as a result of that conference, agreed to set up sustainable ocean plans in the Gulf of Guinea. They adopted a very strong communal agreement to stop piracy. So what I'm saying is, you know, the momentum coming out of Nice is flowing on into things like that. And here we are in Osaka, and I'm seeing this strong contingent from Portugal here. And I'm so proud to have them present, because Azores came to Nice and announced the biggest marine protected area in the whole of the North Atlantic. So, you know, people are doing things. In my part of the world, French Polynesia, the president of French Polynesia came, and he declared the whole of the EEZ of French Polynesia as a marine protected area. You know, this is the size of France, or even bigger, I think, these things. So they're coming. Why is that important? Because we agreed, again, I use the word we to include everybody, every country agreed on this, in Montreal 2 years ago, to something called the Kunming Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework. It's a long name, but it's again about the survival of humanity on this planet. The best of our scientists said, if we don't protect 30% of the planet by the year 2030, it's in 5 years' time, that we will start to see a massive cascading away of species into extinction, which ultimately takes Homo sapiens with it. So that's why 30 by 30 is so important, why that global biodiversity framework is so important. So in Nice, we launched, and Oceano Azul was part of the funding group that funded the consultancy, which put together a report on the guiding principles of how to get the 30% of the ocean and coastal areas done by 2030. It's the plan, it's available, you can see it on the internet. We launched it in Nice together. So that's a really important one again, and I'm certainly very proud to have been the one who actually was chosen to launch that. So we're following up with that in World Conservation Congress in Abu Dhabi in a couple of months' time, as to how we can elevate that further. So look, I think I'm reaching towards the end of my 10 minutes here, so I'm speeding up as fast as possible. But, you know, I try and live by this credo of, you know, faith in reason and inspiration from nature and hope from progress. And, you know, the quality of hope, it seems to be more and more required as that decline that I'm talking about gets further and further down. I have 4 granddaughters, you know, and they ask me, you know, Pappy, where are we going? What's happening, you know? And I do have hope and progress. I do think that human beings, that we are sufficiently greedy for our own well-being, that we're going to look after our future security, and that we have the innovative power that took us from the Stone Age to the Space Age, in planetary terms, just in the blink of an eye, that we have the ability. Now, it may not be measures which everybody's going to be happy with, but I do personally believe that my grandchildren will be able to have lives on this planet where they can live in the joy and the wonder that we've known on this planet. That is not where we're going currently. We are currently going on a highway to hell. That highway to hell is a place called 3 degrees global warming, right? That's what science tells us. We are heading to 3 degrees. That is putting my grandchildren, I don't know about yours, but putting them in a truck and sending them to hell. And I'm not prepared to do that. That's why I fight for this every day, because there is an alternative. There's a road going off here to a place called 1.5 degrees. 1.5 is not ideal, but it's a manageable world with human ingenuity, good multilateralism. We can live on a planet of 1.5. Yes, we went past it, but there's another diversion back to it ahead. That's where I want my grandchildren to be going, down that highway, and I really hope that the rest of you can overcome the greed that we all have, overcome that and think, what is necessary for our little ones to have a future. And that's the principle of intergenerational justice, and I do believe it needs to come to the fore, whether it's elections for governments or whether it's just our consumer choices in daily life. We have to exercise the intergenerational justice principle, and then we can change our minds. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. But Peter Thompson's 国連事務総長の海洋特使を務めていらっしゃるピーター・トムソンさんにお話をいただきました。海洋の危機というのは、まず海洋生物多様性の喪失だけではなくて、例えば気候変動、海水温が上昇してしまうとか、気温が上昇してしまう、そういったところへの対応ですとか、あと世界で陸上、それから海洋の 30% 保全するという目標があるんですけれども、これがまだ実現できていなくて、これを2030年までにどうやって達成するのか、あとは会議が終わった後に何をするのかというのも重要で、その会議の後に実はトムソン特使と私と先週カメルーンの方に行ってまして、アフリカの人たちとも議論をしてきました。今大気の温度が3度上がってしまうということで 1.5 度の上昇でも大変なところ、どうやってその安全な気候、それから海を未来世代、ピーター・トムソン氏もお孫さんがいるということで、そのお孫さんに大事な自然とそれから海洋をつないでいくというのが重要だと、そんなお話をいただきました。We really thank Ambassador Peter Thompson, UN Secretary General's Envoy for Oceans, for giving us very inspiring and instructive talks about the outcome of the UN Ocean Conference and future perspectives. From now, I just wanted to invite 3 panelists, plus our foundation president, who is still on the way. May I ask you to put chairs on the stage, and I'd like to invite first Mr. Tiago Peter y Cunha, the CEO of Oceana Azul. Please be seated. I think in the back, 椅子4つ、椅子もう1個お願いしますね。So Tiago, can you move one seat? And I also invite Mr. Yusuke Saraya. Please be seated next to Tiago, and also Ambassador Peter Thompson, the second chair from this side. And as soon as Dr. Tsunami comes, he will take this first seat. Sorry for some excitement. Okay. So the Oceana Azul is one of the very important partners in Portugal. Portugal hosted the second UN Ocean Conference in the year 2022, 3 years ago. And they have been also hosting World Ocean Summit. That is another very important policy dialogue forum for the oceans. And we are very pleased to have Tiago on board. As you know, that Portugal has been a very important trading partner for Japan over 5 centuries. And Portugal has been very close to Japan in terms of the culture. We've been discussing so many tempura, castella, all come from Portugal as well. And actually, the gun also came from Portugal. That also changed the battlefield in Japanese history a long time ago as well. And Mr. Saraya, wearing a blue jacket, he has actually taken initiatives in designing these blue ocean domes. His concept is very embodied in these structures. This is one of the very unique space where every day people who have so much passion get together, share the idea as to how we can really work together to achieve sustainable ocean. And you have already listened to Ambassador Peter Thompson. So maybe we can start with Tiago, you tell us a bit about how you assess the outcome of the UNOX 3 and how we can really move forward in facilitating the implementation of some of the ideas we have intensively discussed in Nice for achieving sustainable ocean. Tiago, please.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Masanori. And of course, I wanted to very quickly say congratulations to Japan for organizing such an exhibition and for being concerned about the future. Of course, I want to thank you in particular for supporting this ocean dome. It's very positive that Osaka Expo has a special place, a temple for the ocean. And of course, I wanted also to thank Ambassador Peter Thompson for the inspiration that he brings to us when he speaks about the ocean. And of course, for his tireless work towards a new, somehow, ocean governance that will allow us to bring solutions for the ocean problems. Accepting your challenge, I wanted to say that Nice was probably, this last UN Ocean Conference that took place in France in June, is probably a turning page in the ocean negotiations and in the ocean decision-making within the international multilateral agenda. You have to think that the oceans have been very much forgotten during many decades in these debates and these UN discussions. Enough to say that in Rio, in 1992, when we created the paradigm of sustainable development, which actually is the paradigm that rules our lives and our era, there was a convention for climate, the UNFCCC. There was a convention for biodiversity, but there was no convention to connect the ocean with sustainability. So this gap came from there already. And so getting to Nice, where, as Ambassador Peter Thompson said, you have more than 60 heads of state and government. This is more heads of state and government than any climate COP or any biodiversity COP. This means the ocean is going up in the order of priorities of the international community. So this is the time, the train is leaving the station, we need to jump on the wagon. And in Nice, we have signals of progress that allows us to think that from 25 to 2030 is going to be different from before. And that we are actually start building a new ocean order, a new ocean international order. 30 by 30, that was already referred here, protecting 30% of the planet by 2030, is one of the ultimate goals of humanity. We have the goal of the 2 degrees Celsius of the Paris Agreement, ideally 1.5, but equally important to that is that we keep some nature in the planet that fuels the life support systems of the planet. And this is, of course, nature. So, as Ambassador Peter Thompson said, we either are able to protect 30% of the planet until 2030, or by 2040, we will only be able to protect 20%. So this is one of the very important results of Nice. Almost every country spoke in support of 30 by 30. It's not an unrealistic goal anymore. Other important goals were achieved. The French diplomacy did a very good job in obtaining ratification for the High Seas Treaty. There is no treaty to regulate the high seas, which are the biggest part of the ocean and the biggest part of the planet. Now we have one. And it is very likely that this treaty gets into force already by September, even less than 2 years before it was adopted. This is almost unprecedented, that an international legal instrument comes into force in less than 2 years from its adoption. So these are the positive news. I wanted to finish, Masanori, if you allow me, to say about the importance of Japan. As the agenda is evolving, there are coalitions of member states that also want to lead by giving the example. They want to be the first, and Japan must be in these coalitions. The world would be a much more safer place if Japan can join the coalition of the member states that are pushing for this ocean decision-making. We need to think of one thing. We are living, unfortunately, in times where it's more important to think about our countries than to think about our common home. Of course, that with the war in Ukraine and with the conflict and war that is devastating the Middle East, and especially in Palestine, we only think in national terms. But it's not good enough to speak in national terms if the planet will burn, as Ambassador Peter Thompson indicated. So it's very important that when we think of the future here, we don't think of the future for our sake, for the sake of human beings, but we think of the future of the planet as well. So I think that a very important mind frame change is to move from this anthropocentric approach to our concerns and our anxieties to a planetary approach. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tiago. その海洋の持続可能性というのが非常に重要な課題となってまして、先ほどもピーター・トムソン特使のからお話があった 30%、海洋それから陸域の 30% どう保全していくのか、それから公海国家管轄権という、日本それぞれの国が管轄している海の外側にある、どこの国にも属してない、あるいは国際社会に属している、そういう公海をどういうふうに守っていくのかという協定ができていまして、今もう51カ国が批准しているんですけれども、早くそれを実施していくというのが重要だということ、それからもう一つは日本にぜひそういう海洋を保全しよう、海洋の持続可能な管理を進めていこうという連帯の輪に加わってもらいたいというようなことで、未来世代、それから地球の未来に向けてみんな一緒に取り組んでいこうと、そんなお話いただきました。Thank you, Tiago, for your wonderful and inspiring statement. それでは次にサラヤ社長にもお伺いしたいと思います。President Saraya, he is very passionate and inspirational in terms of this coalition for the sustainable oceans. He has been attending every morning during this UNOX 3 that we are broadcasting our interview from Nice to Blue Ocean Dome here, 3 o'clock p.m. here, 8 o'clock in the morning in Nice, and I think that was a demonstration of his commitment to these initiatives. I'm very pleased that Dr. Atsushi Tsunami, our foundation president, came along with pink ties, attracting your attentions. So I'll hand over this chair and invite Saraya-san to give us some remarks.
Thank you very much, Kobayashi-san, and your hard work. And I want to listen to Mr. Thompson for 5 hours. Mr. Tiago, maybe 4 hours. But they are very enthusiastic, powerful, and hot. I hope I'm hot a little bit. But I was together with Mr. Tiago this morning in Poland. They are also careful. Of course, this afternoon, you have your pavilion, and Portugal is very keen, Spain too. So I think we have to enlarge our coalitions or collaboration together. From the business member, because they are more on the public sectors or government sectors, so on. But I think I want to congratulate Mr. Thompson of your Nice UN conference, because everybody, all people say it has been a massive successful event, and also having many stakeholders get together, at least have some solid result. You may talk a little bit later, but this is congratulated. But it is very difficult to make consensus among nations or among many stakeholders in the world. Unfortunately, there are wars, conflict, divides already going on, as Mr. Tiago said. Business-wise, I think business or NPOs is faster than those big sectors. I think we should move fast on the business-wise, but for what? Not to only make money, but we have to do something. Find business for sustainable development, not making money out of sustainable business, but we have to make creative enough, innovative enough to make sustainable business, so-called blue economy business. Blue economy means sustainable business itself, sustainable, creating jobs, make value adding, and make employment. We don't count on much on AI, because if they cut the people off, maybe we will need some employment business too. We have to work with the developing countries like Cameroon. He has been there. We have to make people understood how to finance those businesses, because most of the people does not know how to finance. So we have to move fast. We have to talk to the people, but we have to make business, blue economy business. And this is my one to talk. And thanks to first trial in Monaco that you have the blue economy business financing forum there. I heard from Kobayashi-san that there was 1,800 organizations, head of the states, and business organization including. So this is kind of showing big advancement, that inviting money to business, to the good blue economy business. So I wish we could collaborate together. We move the fastest because he's observing our truck is going to the hell. But I hope not. I hope not, especially for the, I have a grandchildren, 6 of them. You have 2? 4. So 2 more in my case from 2 children. So I think we share the kind of hotness and being together and make some collision, because Tsunami-san is here and he was asking Japan to be a member of this collision. Kobayashi-san, I think we have to move our government a little bit faster. But the last election yesterday, without, so I hope that Tsunami-san will make good policies and make political side of Japanese to move. Thank you very much for my talk.
Okay, thank you very much, サラヤさん。ニース会議の本当に堅実な成果についてお話をいただいて、政府間のいろいろまだ利害対立もありますけれども、途上国も含めて持続可能な海洋管理をどう進めていくかというのが重要で、その意味では雇用を創出したりという観点からブルーエコノミー、日本で海業と言ったり海洋経済と言っているものを進めていく、それにどうやって資金供与していく、そういったところが重要で、サラヤ社長もお孫さんが6人、ピーターさん4人で そういった未来世代にどうやってつないでいくかというのが重要だというお話がありました。So thank you indeed, Saraya-san. And maybe I wonder if Peter has any reflection and addition so far at this stage.
I don't want to dominate the room because I'm sure you want to ask some questions, but you know, I often think about progress because I was talking about hope in progress. It's often very boring progress. You know, it's that maybe that's one reason why it's hard to get politicians and people involved in progress. I always compare it to building a country road because my background in Fiji started in 1971, can you believe it, in rural development. My district had no electricity. It was all about development. And people wanted roads, you know, because we walked everywhere. And so building a country road is a boring thing, you know. It's basically, if you don't have a lot of machinery, it's digging drains and it's finding some gravel to put down. It's boring, prosaic work, but you got to do it. And that's progress because they could then take their crops to the market and all the rest. So I sort of think about that now that I'm in multilateralism, and I was president of UNDP, the biggest development agency in the world. And you know, development's a bit of a mystery to me, let me say that. But progress, we must have it, even if it's boring. I'll give you an example. I can bore you in 30 seconds, right? When I tell you what you have to do, which is your countries all have to ratify the BB&J High Seas Treaty, you know? That means getting your legislative calendars. Japan hasn't done it yet. Germany hasn't done it. Australia haven't done it. Why? Their elections and their legislative calendars got in the way. Boring. Make that happen, right? The WTO Fisheries Subsidies Agreement, $20 to $30 billion of our money, public's money, being given to industrial fishing fleets to go and chase diminishing stocks of fish in the world. You know, so we've got to get those subsidies in place at WTO. Boring work, sitting around till midnight for years on end, trying to get all the countries into consensus. Boring. The FAO Fisheries the FAO Ports and States Measures Agreement. This is our best weapon against IUU fishing. Means fisheries inspector goes down and checks every vessel coming in with fish from overseas. Boring work, but it's the best way to combat IUU fishing. You know, I could go on. There are just so many of these things. NDCs. Our nationally determined contributions, this is the system we got coming out of Paris for us all individually, our individual countries, to nationally determine what we're going to do to get off that 3 degrees highway to hell. You know, what we're going to do nationally. And we have to make sure, because we're in Belém in a few months' time in Brazil, we all have to go there and show our new NDCs. This is the year when we have to show our new NDCs. We have to make sure that the ocean is in there. Again, boring work, sitting around your committees and your capitals, persuading them to put the wording in there that they're committing our country to this. Same thing for the NB SAPs. Look, you're all boring, getting bored. You're going to sleep because I'm just telling you the necessary work that is required to stop this crazy trajectory that we're on. So, you know, when you hear this stuff, try and not turn off it. Try and think, yeah, is my country up to speed? Are we a responsible country yet? Because you've got to tick all those boxes to become a responsible ocean country. And so even though it is boring and prosaic and a bit bureaucratic, that's where you get progress. Thanks.
Thank you, Ambassador Peter Thompson. 国際社会でいろいろ取り組みをしていくとやっぱり時間がかかるので、そういう意味では進捗に時間がかかるとかいったこともあります。合意形成に時間がかかる。違法漁業対策についても気候変動対策の国別取り組みについても着実に進めていくという意味では時間かかるんですけども、そういったことをしっかりやっていくというのが、成果を具体的に示していくことで、重要だというようなお話をいただきます。Thank you, Peter, for your remarks. Maybe we are coming to the time to wrap up the first segment of this overarching policy discussions. We will have a thematic discussions afterwards, but maybe let me invite Dr. Tsushi Tsunami, our foundation president. I'm sure that our foundation remain committed to promote the international partnership for global commons, climate change, and oceans irrespective of the political changes. He may give you some narratives about the outcome of yesterday's election or maybe after this seminar, but yeah, please join me in welcoming Dr. Atsushi Tsunami.
ですね、few words in Japanese first, I think. 今日はですね、海の日ということで、たくさんこうしてブルーオーシャンドームに、来ていただいて、皆さんとこの大切な海についてですね、お話がこうできるということは非常にいいことだと、嬉しいことだと思っております。まずはゼリージャパン、そしてサラヤさんのですね、こうした取り組みがこのブルーオーシャンドームを作っていただきましたし、そして海の日をこうして海のことを世界中の海のリーダーの方々と話ができる機会を作っていただいた。まずはそのことをお礼を申し上げたいと思います。この万博の中でここだけですから、海のことやってるのは、もうここで世界の海のことをですね議論しているのはもうここだけなんで、しかもだからポルトガルで私の友人ですが、長く本当に海のことをやって、来ていただいている、ティアゴがポルトガルからリスボンから来てくれてますし、ありがとうございます。でもちろんサラヤさんに、そしてピーター・トンプソン、これ国連のですね海の大責任者なんですね。国連の海の大責任者がこの海の日にこのドームに来ていただいていますので、本当にこうして世界の人たちがこう海について語る場をですね作れるということは非常に重要だなと。そしてこれは日本の海の日ですから、日本が海の日をこう迎えるにあたって世界の人たちと会話をしている、これは非常に重要なことであります。じゃあ日本の海の日なんですが、日本は海のチャンピオンかというと残念ながらそこにまでは至っていません。昨日の選挙、私も3時ぐらいまで起きていろいろとどうなるかなと思ってましたが、政権はますます不安定になっていきます。その中で、我が国はもう待ったなしですね。とにかく一日でも早くこの環境問題、海の問題、地球の問題、そういうことに取り組んでいかなきゃいけない。先ほど2時に石破さんが記者会見をしました。政権を続けていくと。私は、とにかく総理として今目の前にある課題が大変なんで続けていくということを言ったんですけれども、選挙結果はあなたは続けられないでしょうという結果が出たわけですよね。だから本当にこれから茨の道を日本の政治が歩んでいくんですけれども、その中で海のことを待ったなしです。地球環境のことを待ったなし。世界は紛争しています。人の命がどんどん毎日奪われていく、待ったなしです。そこに日本がどれぐらいしっかりと政治がついていけるか、これ我々がこれからもしっかりサポートしながら見ていかなきゃいけない、そういう局面かなと思っています。今日皆さん本当に海の日ね、暑いのに来ていただいて、その海のことを我々と共感できたということで、ぜひですね一緒にまたこの待ったなしなんで海のことについて皆さんと取り組んでいければいいかなと思っています。Let me just say a few words. I just want to, welcome the Japanese guests who are celebrating the Day of Ocean, right? And actually, this is Japan's National Day of the Ocean. But it was very great that all the people, the national world leaders in the oceans can get together in the Blue Ocean Dome to celebrate Japan's Day of the Ocean. But I told the Japanese audience that unfortunately, Japan is not a sort of the leader as we want to be in the champion of the ocean conservation. We have a lot of work to do, as Peter mentioned, and we hope the Japanese government would take the initiative to even ratify all these boring treaties or boring work. But they are the one must to work on this. So, but unfortunately, of course, we had the just yesterday upper house election, and government party lost the majority. So it will be very. Also, there's another thing about this new rising sort of the neo-conservative or the conservative party that was actually gained a lot of seats unexpectedly. But this trend is happening all over the world. Europe, United States, everywhere. This is our concern. And this party actually ran for the first time this upper house election, campaigning Japan first, Japanese first. Sounds very familiar. But they are really getting a lot of popularity. And if the Japanese first, who's going to take care of the oceans, right? Well, if the Japanese first ends up taking out our responsibility of our oceans, that's fine. But they're not talking about that. They're talking about the economy. They are talking about, all these very narrow-minded, short-sighted issues, which are also important. But unfortunately, this is a national election, so it's not a local election, it's a national election. So the Japanese government has to find a way to, as Peter mentioned, the things that we need to be doing in next coming month. But together with Saraya-san and my foundation, we are the private foundation, and we have to step up. It's the time for us to tell our government, look, whatever you're doing is really killing our future, our Earth, our grandchildren. And so this is something that, as Saraya-san mentioned, we will have to be taking care of this. So thank you very much, and please enjoy the rest of the session.
Thank you. So he'll give you a special lecture on Japanese political science after the seminar. He can talk about for 2 hours, 3 hours, but we'll save it for the future occasion. So please join me in giving a big round of applause to the 4 panelists. Oh, okay, Peter.
Just one final word, just to thank Saraya-san, because 3 years ago we were sitting in Tokyo somewhere, and you showed me the plans, the blueprints for this dome. And I thought, wow, it looks pretty impressive, but they actually going to be able to do all that so sustainably? Well, you did it. So congratulations, and thank you so much.
それじゃあ、第1セッションの方、これで一区切りさせていただきます。そのままお待ちください。第2セッションをやりますので、we'll proceed to the second session. Maybe we have a photograph together.それでは続いて第2セッションの方に移らせていただきます。第2セッションは2つプレゼンテーションがありまして、でその後に発表があります。First, I'd like to invite Ms. Raquel Gayao, board member of the Bio Alliance, Blue Bio Alliance. She will give short presentations to be followed by Ms. Silvia Tareres and Diogo Ganaldes. So please, may I ask Ms. Raquel Gayao to take a floor.
Hello, good afternoon. My name is Raquel Gayon Silva. I'm the executive board member of Blue Bio Alliance and senior associate of Faber. And it's such a pleasure to be here with you today celebrating a special day. Today I'll give you a brief overview and guide you through a brief journey of the blue bioeconomy world. But what is exactly the blue bioeconomy and how can we see it in action? Well, I can tell you that the blue bioeconomy might be even closer to you than what you think. It's not only the fish we eat every day, but it's also other products that we see and consume in our daily life. For example, here you can see 3 images. One is a facial cream that we can use every day in our skincare. The second option is a packaging solution, a more sustainable packaging for a brand that is reducing their environmental footprint. And their third image is a promising medication to treat complex diseases. And all three products come from very different sectors: cosmetics, packaging, and pharma. But all three have one thing in common. And I'm sure you're already guessing. It's the ocean. All of them started through a marine blue bioresource that was transformed into a high-value solution. And that's actually the definition of the blue biotechnology that, together with aquaculture and fisheries, come up with the blue bioeconomy. Just a few curiosity about these three products is that they also come from Portugal. The first one comes from Azores, and this product actually combines the thermal water and microalgae in their formulation, and they've expanded globally. They've even reached high-end luxurious hotels like the Four Seasons in New York and here in Asia, in Hong Kong. The second product is from Bezeus. Bezeus has recently expanded to Portugal to use local Portuguese seaweed. And they are doing sustainable bioplastic. This means that it's a plastic that biodegrades in the soil. And they were one of the first to achieve a great milestone, that is actually having a plastic pellet that is compatible with existing manufacturing equipment of plastic. And this is a big achievement because usually there's high temperatures and high pressures, and usually this biodegradable plastic doesn't really go well, but Bezeus made it. And they've actually caught the attention of big players like Nestlé. And then the third startup is actually a great example on how the ocean inspires scientists becoming entrepreneurs. The founder of Sea4Us was diving off the coast of Portugal, and he had a pain in one hand. And after touching a marine sponge, the pain went away. And this sparked a curiosity of the scientists, and fast forwarding to today, he was able to identify the bioactive compound responsible for that, and he was able to chemically synthesize it in the lab, and now they've opened a new class of medication that is opioid-free, and it really interests Japan because Japan has a strict rule against opioids. So they are in conversations with many pharma companies, but the Japanese are actually really, really interested. So how is Portugal helping these startups and many others becoming successful cases? At Blue Bio Alliance, we are a network that combines all the players of the value chain of the marine bioresources, the ones that produce the resources, the ones that transform them, and the ones that sell them. And we also have some support entities like research centers, lawyers that help with intellectual property, but also investors. And we combine them and we foster partnerships between them. We also bring visibility to them, that's why we are here. And also we have a lot of know-how about the sector. And this is actually what made us the right partners of Blue Bio Value, which is a program promoted by Oceano Azul Foundation, and that has these two different and equally important tracks: the Blue Bio Value Ideation, that turns R&D ideas into business models and viable businesses, and then we have the acceleration for already existing startups that needs to scale. But all these solutions would never leave the lab without core key stakeholders that help them get there. Oceano Azul Foundations, through all the initiatives that we have in this area, but also ocean investors, ocean impact investors that already know the space and that already reserve some capital to support these early stage innovations. For example, Faber is a deep tech early stage investor based in Portugal that already has a fixed fund to invest in these startups. So, just to finish, I hope I was able to get you as excited as we all are about the blue bioeconomy space. And Portugal is already doing its part. So we need to act collectively because Portugal alone cannot build a strong blue bioeconomy. We need to gather all the players, be it scientists, entrepreneurs, investors, policymakers, and we need to act as a whole. We need to replicate success, not just celebrate them. We need to fund early stage innovations from Portugal to the world, and not just invest or finance the safer bets that really contribute to the status quo. And third, we need to foster a global economy that truly truly protects and values the ocean, and so that we can build a global economy for both people and the planet. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Laquero Silva, for giving us your talks about this bio issues. 海洋保全のためにいろいろ化学物質とかそういったものの利用についてより制限的に、そして自然と調和型のそういった素材を使ったものを使っていくということが重要というようなお話をいただきました。Next speaker I'd like to invite is Ms. Silvia Tavares. She's a senior project manager for ocean conservation of Ocean Azul. May I invite you to take a floor? Can you try to keep it maybe for 5 minutes?
I will. I need to pass here, right? Hello, everyone. So we already were inspired by the last panel, hearing Tiago, hearing Mr. Yusuke and Peter Thompson talking about how urgent it is for us, for everyone, to move the needle and to turn the tide and to accelerate in order to go to try to meet our targets on the 30% of protection of the planet by 2030. The good news is that we know how to do it. So we have one tool, we have marine protected areas, we have knowledge that was built during decades that can inform us on how to do it properly and how to do it in an effective way. And so Oceano Azul Foundation, for the last years since its creation, has been working as a catalyst for marine protected areas, working with governments and also working with communities in order to build the programs that will help us to accelerate and move the needle to this target. We are far away from the targets. Globally, we are with 9% of coverage of marine protected areas, and less than 3% of those are fully and highly protected. This means that we are still doing a lot of extractive activities inside the marine protected areas, and we know that we need to move away from that model, and we know that the highly and fully protected areas are the ones that will produce the benefits, not only for nature and biodiversity, but also for the economy, because we know that a healthy ocean is what will support not only our life support system, but also our thriving economies, and that's how this links with the new economies of the future. We have really concrete examples of the work that Oceano Azul Foundation has been doing in Portugal. We have been developing 3 models of approach to marine protected areas, because it's not the same if you want to implement effectively a marine protected area in a coastal busy area or in an offshore area with really different stakeholders where communities are not there. So you need to adjust the model, your approach. But there are 3 things that we cannot leave behind when talking about implementing marine protected areas. Oceano Azul Foundation believes that we need to use science as our compass, our guide to inform decision makers on what are the most important places that we need to protect in order to regenerate the ocean. The second thing is we need to work with the communities and to involve everyone, not leave no one behind. So we need to use structured participatory processes in order to get the decisions and the consensus. And so this is something not from the governments, not from the communities, but marine protected areas need to be owned by everyone. And the third thing is also the leadership. So we talked about hope here, but we need the wisdom, we need the courage, and we need the action. So we know how to do this, we need to do it now. Sorry, this just jumped. I bring you, following the UNOC tree in Nice, there were 2 highlights in our programs that I would like to bring here, 2 examples. So the Azores MPA network, as Ambassador Peter Thompson already referred, was an important milestone from 2024, a decision by a regional government to protect 30% of its EEZ. We are talking about 300 square miles of protected areas that are
fully protected areas and highly protected areas. This will be a really important sanctuary for important species in the North Atlantic. You can see just a picture here, but it shows you that this network, these models that are made at the scale of EEZs are possible to do when you apply this approach with science, with participatory processes, and with the leadership of the governments and also the support of the Portuguese government. The second example that I would like to bring here was also a direct result from UNOC. During UNOC, the Portuguese government was able to take the international ocean stage and to announce the creation of a large-scale MPA offshore Portugal. And this MPA is now aimed to have 100,000 square kilometers. And the important thing is that will protect a huge seamount, an important seamount that is offshore Portugal that contains really important natural values. I will show you a small video about Gorinch, and then I will finish and be available for your questions.
Que mergulho lindo, aquela descida cheia de lírios.
Thank you so much. I just wanted to say good National Day of the Sea in Japan.
Thank you very much, Ms. Silvia Tavares. It's a wonderful videos, and we are very impressed and looking forward to watching the full movies as well. この海洋保護区の取り組みについて、特にアゼーレ諸島、ポルトガル沖にある島なんですけども、そこの界隈で海洋保護区を設定して、そこの海洋生物の美しさ、神秘さを映像として撮影したということで、今後また全体像の映画が見られることを非常に楽しみにしたいと思っております。Next speaker I'd like to invite is Mr. Diogo Genaldes. He's the Director for Education of Lisbon Oceanario, Lisbon Aquarium. Please take our floor, Diogo.
Thank you. Thank you. My name is Diogo Geraldes. I'm Head of Education of the Oceanario Lisboa, and it's... Oh, okay, I can go here. And it's a pleasure to be here with you today. So today we have talked about policy, conservation, economy, and I will talk about something that connects all the topics. I will talk about education. And Portugal has been a leader, an European leader in ocean literacy for decades, with several institutions working on it, having blue education activities, and so on. For instance, the Oceanario has already engaged more than 2 million participants in our educational program, from students, from families, even companies. And we are also one of the co-founders of the Blue School project in Portugal that inspired the creation of the global network of Blue Schools. But, however, if you want a sustainable, long-term, and efficient blue education, we need to give a step forward, and we need to include the ocean into the curriculum. We need to include the ocean into the formal education. So that's why back in 2018, the Oceanário Lisboa and Oceano Azul Foundation create the program Educating a Blue Generation, a program that focuses on teachers training, that focuses on teaching the teachers how to include the ocean into the curriculum. And the results of the first years of the project was so good that the Portuguese Minister of the Sea, of the Education, invited us to create a task group to evaluate how to scale up the pilot program to all the country and how to include the ocean into the curriculum. And we did it, and we delivered the report to the Ministry of Education. And this year, at the beginning of this year, we deliver a detailed proposal to include the ocean into the curriculum, to include the ocean into every subject, every discipline, from the primary schools to the high schools. Because if you want to design the future societies of our lives, we need to include the ocean. We must include the ocean into how we teach, how we learn, and how we live. Thank you.
Okay. So thank you, Mr. Diogo Guinaldes. We just put the chairs and invite the three colleagues on the stage. Maybe we have some question and answer sessions. So maybe Diogo, you sit second chair. Bring. Maybe you go right. Okay, so maybe I just ask first Raquel that this promoting nature-based materials or avoiding the chemicals or harmful materials detrimental to the marine environment. Sometimes manufacturers, they think it's cheaper, easy, and if they have to use alternative materials, it may be more costly, and they may not be competitive with other products by the other manufacturers. How do you deal with these competitions, or how to attract the understanding of the consumers for the product you are promoting?
Thank you. Thank you for the question, and that's a very important question. So maybe I can go deeper, a little bit deeper on the three examples that I've chose, because all of them, if you think of it, they don't tackle just an environmental problem. They also tackle an economical problem. And in the case of the facial cream, the thermal water and the microalgae, they actually are better for your skin. They don't have chemicals. You have already clients that look for these organic characteristics. So it's not just the fact that we are protecting the environment, but actually it's a value for the customer. So actually the companies want these products for their customers. In the case of bioplastic, the bioplastic is a trickier one, because the plastic, as we know, comes from oil, it's very cheap, and the bioplastic is more expensive at the moment. The idea is that at scale it will meet price parity, but if in early stages they can't be equally in terms of price. So that's why we need to support these early stages so they can get to scale and be as successful as other conventional plastics. And third but not the least, the medication. As you can see, Japan is strictly against opioids, and it's a risk for them to have these type of medications here. So having a solution that has a compound that don't need anything else, just a marine sponge biomolecule, it's enough. And it's not just sustainable, it's good for the health and it's good for the clients.
Thank you. So it's not just good for the environment, but actually it's good for the humans. I think this is a very important message. この自然調和型の物質を使うというのは何も環境だけにいいということではなくて、それを使う消費者、それから利用者にとってもいいんだと、そこにちゃんと理解をしてもらうというのが重要だと、そういうお話でした。Let me now turn to Ms. Silvia Tavares. I think same question, maybe to protect the oceans, sometimes we have to ban fishing or reduce the fishing activities, and some fishermen, they say that, oh, this is our ocean, why do we have to stop fishing, or why do we have to reduce fish catch? How do you deal with this, the short-term conflict of interest? Maybe long-term, it may be good for the fishermen, but how can we deal with this conflict of interest at the short term in order to make kind of a consensus between different stakeholders?
So the first thing that I would like to say, and also backing up on Raquel that was mentioning, like the degradation of nature and the degradation of the ocean is not only an ecological problem, it is an economical problem. So no one benefits from the degradation, and that's the route we have been following. So we actually need to stop that route of degradation, not only because it is important to do so, not only because we have that shared responsibility, but also because we need to find new avenues and the valuation of the ocean. There's this wrong idea that marine protected areas and ocean conservation are anti-fishing, and that's not totally the case. So if you want to have healthy fisheries, you need a healthy ocean. And we know that by establishing marine protected areas, we are protecting the nursery grounds of the marine species, we are protecting and allowing for the fish stocks to rebound. So, of course, this will happen in different time scales, and there are species that we will be able to recover in a short term, others will need a longer term. But in the meanwhile, we will need to find out the financing mechanisms to support those who are being affected by the marine protected areas in a short term. We need just to rethink our financial paradigm and economic paradigm in a way that it's more valuable to have a healthy ocean than a degraded ocean.
I think you really raise an important point that in the long term, the conservation is good for fishermen as well, but maybe we need the mechanisms to mitigate the short-term impact for the stakeholders that they may have to deal with such policy changes. Let me, 海洋保護区を使うというのは漁業者にとっても非常にいいことで、ただ短期的にそれで不利益を受けるような人がいる場合にはそこについての手当をする、そういう制度をしっかりと作っていくというのが重要だと、そんなこともお話をいただきました。I will also ask questions to Diogo. I think two of your colleagues, Raquel and Silvia, mentioned that the people have to really understand properly about the merit in making changes of the materials used for the products, making changes of the conservations for the long-term benefit of biological blessing. How do you see this importance of education, reaching out? I think school children is one part of the stakeholders to address your interest, but to raise the public awareness at large, I think what is your strategies to promote education and awareness raising for sustainable ocean?
Thank you. As you said, education is a powerful tool because we educators are the ones who will translate all the things, all the terms that the economists, that the conservationists use to the general public. We are the ones who will talk to their kids, We are the one who will share this kind of information, the kind of information that we are degrading the ocean, that the ocean impacts everything in our planet. And yeah, we are the ones that can talk to them, prepare the future generations, but in the meanwhile, we no longer can wait for the future generations to act. So we need to also to talk to adults. We need to share information with adults. For instance, we need to talk to the ones who are in the companies to make them aware of what we are doing, and also to make them aware of the opportunities that the ocean represents. So yeah, and of course we have a lot of I would say tools such as training, such as training for local communities, training for companies, lessons at schools, and it's all about try to change their behaviors and make some impact in them.
Thank you, Diogo. 教育というのが非常に重要な手段だという措置だということで、特に、未来世代を待つというよりも今いるこの現代社会の人たちで何ができるのか、そこについて研究者だけではなくて、子ども、それから企業、地域社会の人たち、そういう人たちとの理解をどういうふうに促進していくのかというのが重要だというお話をいただきました。So maybe we invite any colleagues in the audience to pose any questions. Maybe Sarah-san, any questions?
I want to take that opium, but is it very do we have any side effect, or so far is it approved in Europe as a EU or only in Portugal?
Thank you so much for your question. Well, I'm here as a representation of course, Blue Bio Alliance, and C4us would be way better to reply to your question. But of course, as any medication, they need to pass through clinical trials. So they are now going through the clinical trials, and as they go, they are reaching out to potential pharmaceutical companies. But they already told me that Japanese pharmaceutical companies are very, very interested about the results. So they are closely, looking to the results. But they are, in a very advanced stage of the clinical trials, which is good news.
医薬品についても今ポルトガルの中で取り組んでいることをヨーロッパで拡大していく、それから製薬会社との協力をしていく、日本の製薬会社についてもこの生物由来の資源については大変高い関心があるということで、その辺の広がりについては期待しているというお話がありました。Any maybe additional questions? Are you okay? So I think we will continue our discussion in the Portuguese pavilions starting at 4:30. If you haven't yet satisfied with the level of the discussion we had, please walk down to the Portuguese pavilions, and they have also wonderful films projected in the Portuguese pavilions, and we will have another group of speakers who will address this important topic of promoting sustainable oceans. So today we commemorated the Japan's Ocean Day with wonderful speakers from different parts, including Portugal. And we really thank all of you for being here. And once again, thank you, Sarah-san, for giving us a generous support to these initiatives. Let's join me in giving a big round of applause to the four speakers and Sarah-san.